Hello and welcome to our second video in this free training series. I'm Phil Bachman with ToSellYourBusiness.com. Let me again thank you for joining us. Our goal for this training series is to help you develop a more clear understanding and awareness of the many different facets that are involved in this process of preparing your business for sale to a potential buyer soon or in the next few years. Now, I know that many of the people we've met and worked with over the years are a lot like you. You're business owners. You may have been approached about selling your business. You may have decided that you're ready to sell your business. You may have worried from time to time about how do I get out of this thing? How am I going to retire? How do I go into a new business? How can I get some financial security out of this for my family? Or you may need to sell your business suddenly because of an unforeseen personal situation. In other words, you are most likely a lot like most other business owners. Now, there have been several well-published surveys focusing on small and mid-sized business owners like you, including reports by Deloitte & Touche and PricewaterhouseCoopers, two of the top 4 international professional service companies. Now, these surveys have all pointed out that only a very small percentage of business owners, somewhere between 14 and 20%, have actually done any significant planning or preparation towards eventually exiting their business. 14 to 20%. Even though it will most likely be the most significant financial event in your entire life. This is why we feel you need to have the information we put into these training videos. For us, it's almost like a crusade. It's important that you start thinking like Norm Brodsky wrote in his Inc. magazine article. I talked about this in the first video. He said, build your business to sell even if you don't plan on it. Let me repeat that because this is excellent advice. Build your business to sell even if you don't plan on it. Now, this is the transformation we want to help you with, to get you better prepared, to get your business better structured, to get it more targeted towards future potential buyers, to help you increase the monetary value of the business. Now, at the end of the first video, I commented that this second session will be a real eye-opener for you, and I meant it, because Chris starts bringing together the exit channels he discussed in the first video and the 2 secrets to why you really are in control of the value of your business, not somebody else. So let's get started again and join Chris in the studio.
Okay, so now you have an idea of what I'm talking about when I say exit channels. From that diagram you saw there are different exit channels depending on who might buy your company, ranging from strategic buyers down to those related buyers. So the question I get very often when I start working with a business owner, they ask me, well, what's my company worth? What's the valuation? Sometimes they'll even say, you're a CPA, can't you do a valuation? Isn't there some formula you can figure out how much my company is worth? Well, like good advisor, I always like to answer that question with another question. So I come back and I ask them this question. And I say, someone controls the value of my business. So who is this? Who controls the value of your business? Well, a lot of my clients might guess. They'll say, well, let's see. Is it the buyer that controls the value of my business? Is it the market that controls the value of my business? Is it some formula, maybe, that controls the value? The answer is none of those. In fact, let me tell you the answer. The answer to this is you. You control the value of your business. Now, before you turn off the video and say, okay, this guy's crazy, let me explain what I mean by this. I'm going to explain my message in 2 parts. I'm going to come back and I'm going to explain to you 2 secrets that go into why this is a true statement. And these are 2 secrets that I've found to be true in valuation. Let me come back in a minute and I'll explain those 2 secrets. All right, let's assume you haven't turned the video off and you're still with me on this. This concept that you control the value of your business. All right, let me explain myself. Here's a secret of valuation. One of the secrets, number 1 secret here. The secret is a different buyer is going to mean a different value. This is an odd concept, but let me try and explain. The idea that one buyer is going to come up with a different value for your business than another buyer will for the exact same business at the exact same time. So valuation is not a static concept among small business owners. So businesses have different values depending on the circumstances, depending on the buyer. So this is the first secret that helps explain why you control the value and not someone else, because you get to control who ultimately you're going to sell to. So let me go through a couple examples. Maybe this will help you explain. So I've written out here strategic buyer, private equity buyer, replacement owner, and management team. These might just be 4 different types of buyers that kind of fall into those exit channels that we talked about earlier. So in each of these different categories, we're going to find different dollar amount value and different terms that are going to be the real case. Now this is a real example I'm going to use of a real company that I just got done working with, and we went out and tested the market in these various areas and came up with very different answers. So we started out with looking for replacement owners, and we found there was a gentleman that was interested in taking over this business. This was a catalog sales industry business. And this replacement owner looked at it and said, you know, I could probably get away with financing this company. I could see myself working in this business, and I'm willing to pay $2 million for that company. Okay, so that's one option that he had. And this replacement owner was going to go out and get SBA financing, and they were going to be able to buy the company, most of it in cash, in fact, with the financing. So the seller was going to be able to get most cash. In fact, they were going to get about 80% cash, and they were going to have to take about a 20% loan back from that buyer. All right, well that's great for that one particular buyer. Well now, we actually went out and talked to a strategic buyer. And this strategic buyer was already in the industry, already offering similar products, but they didn't quite reach the niche that my catalog company had been selling to. So this strategic buyer looked at this and said, you know, we could fold all this in and we could just add it to what we're doing, and this would make a lot more sense for us if we just went out and just bolted that company right into ours and merged it right into the operations we're doing. And it's not going to take us a lot of effort. In fact, we're going to save a lot on the administrative costs. We're not going to have a separate accounting department. We're not going to have a separate sales team. They had a lot of synergies that could be added by bringing that in. So they looked at that same company and said, you know, we could probably pay a $3 million price tag, and for the most part, we'll pay all cash. So it was pretty much 100% cash on the barrelhead was their offer. Now that was an interesting idea. Then we went out and found a private equity group. Now in this case, we found a pretty small private equity group. Most private equity groups are looking at larger transactions, but in this case, we found a group of entrepreneurs who had pooled their money and were looking at opportunities like this one. And this company ran by itself for the most part. It had some management in place. It was running pretty smoothly. The owner didn't have to spend a lot of time working with the company. So this group of private equity investors looked at it and said, you know, that'd be a pretty interesting company that we could just take, and I bet you we could grow it from a distance here. And they had a whole lot of cash sitting on the sidelines that they weren't necessarily doing anything with. And so they looked at this thing and said, you know, we could probably pay a fair amount of money and get a decent return on our investment. They said, so they got a wind of the fact that we were looking at $3 million from this strategic buyer. And they said, you know what, I think we could probably match that, maybe add a little to it and get our attention. And they said, all right, we'll pay $3.5 million. And we'll also pay all cash. All right, well, that was a pretty good deal. So now it looks like we're working our way up the ladder here. Well, about that time, my client says, you know what, maybe we ought to look at the management team. You know, I've got a couple young guys in here that are really running this thing well. They've always asked, hey, if you ever want to sell this, we'd be interested to buy it. So, of course, my client said, well, let's not just pass up that opportunity. Let's go talk to the management team. Let's go see if those guys want to buy it. So we went and talked with them and helped them look about if they could get some financing. Well, the problem was they didn't have a lot of money. Okay, so, but they said, look, don't go selling this thing to outside parties. You know, they may first of all, they might even tell us they don't want us working in the company anymore. So this management team said, you know what, we'll match or we'll beat this price. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to offer $4 million to keep the company so that we can keep it under control. But again, we don't have a lot of money. So what did these guys do? Well, they ended up having to be able to scrounge up with some family and friends. They got about 20% of the money in a down payment, and the rest, the 80% that's missing, was all done by a seller note. So now my client is faced with a choice, a decision. He's saying, all right, well, I could sell for $3 million all cash, know that it just goes out there and gets dealt with. I could sell for $3.5 million for a little bit more cash, but you know what? My management team might be in jeopardy here. They may not want to keep these guys around. I could sell it to this replacement owner, but he's the lowest price of all of them. And in fact, he's going to have to make me carry some of this on a note, or I'm going to have to sell it to my management team. I get the best price. I know I get the guys that I want staying in the company. But I really don't get a lot of cash out of the deal, and I end up basically financing the company myself. So these are all the options. The point being is, this is the same company at the exact same point in time, and we're getting offers that vary dramatically. I mean, literally twice as much value in some cases, and vary dramatically in terms of the terms they're getting offered. And all of this is to point out the fact that at any point in time, a different buyer has different values. And that's secret number one.
Well, Chris has started to lay some groundwork, some foundation to begin your transformation, to help you become better prepared, to help you get your business better prepared, to help you increase the value of your business, okay, I'm going to repeat myself here and quote Norm Brodsky again, to help you build your business to sell even if you don't plan on it. Now, Chris has started your transformation by showing you 4 examples of the types of exit channels that are out there with their unique characteristics and how they match up with different types of potential buyers. There's still more types to examine, and we'll get into those further on, but by now you have a fairly good grasp of the need to start planning and targeting the ways you can create more value in your business. You'll next need to begin to figure out what each of these exit channels wants to see in your business, in your industry. What do they want it to look like? Finally, we've introduced you to a question that Chris is going to address in the next video. It's a huge question, and it's got a huge answer. And that question is, what can I be working on starting tomorrow to make my business more attractive to the right exit channels, at the right price, at the right time, that also fits my goals and my objectives? Now, don't lose sight of the fact that although we've entitled this series to Sell Your Business, that doesn't mean you're going to go out and immediately start a selling process. You may have your business 5 or 10 years from now, and you're going to have identified and corrected weaknesses from a market standpoint. You will have a stronger business. You will have created more value. You will have a better business. And for you personally, you'll be in a more confident frame of mind that you are doing the right things to maximize the value of all the years of sweat and effort you've invested in your business, not to mention the serious dollars you put into it. So in this next video in the free series, Chris will introduce you to yet another new element to add to your knowledge. But before you go, please take the time to give us some input. Send us your comments. Let us know what questions you have, that we may make this training more valuable to you. We would very much like to hear from you. Just take a minute or two, send your comments and questions to us down below. And again, thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.